Good afternoon and welcome to CEC Gurukul lecture. In continuation with the series on family and kinship, in today's lecture we are trying to understand the family as a categorical unit in understanding the society, and that we are referring to William J. Goody's work, The Theoretical Understanding of Family. Now, before we try to understand the debates and argument around family, the first question is, why do we need to kind of understand family, or why is the family theoretically significant? And to get an answer to this, we will refer again to J. Goody's work. According to Goody, the family is the only social institution other than religion that is formally developed in all society. A specific social agency is in charge of a great variety of social behaviors and activities. Some have argued that the legal system did not exist in pre-literate or technologically less developed society because there was no formally organized legislative body or judiciary. So, there is again kind of understanding that we do a comparison between the simple pre-literate society and the advanced industrial society. And when we put the family as an institution, the comparison is most of the time arguing that the primitive simple society did not have judiciary, they did not have a nation state, and how was then it was regulated? There was no kind of anarchy, but social order was regulated. And what was the most important institution? It was the family and kinship. So, family and kinship regulated the political, economic and other relationship, and order was maintained. However, kinship status and the objectives were object of both formal and informal attention in societies at a high or low technological level. Although the family is usually thought of as an expressive or emotional social unit, it serves as an instrumental agency for larger social structure, and all other institutions and agency depends upon its contribution. So, this is why we need to kind of consider the theoretical significance of family, that it is not only functioning for expressive and emotional function, it also have an instrumental agency. So, how you kind of place yourself in the economy or the politics to a large extent is dependent on your family or the familiarist package that the Goody talks about. So, for example, the role behavior learned within the family becomes the model or prototype for behavior required in other segments of the society. So, basically the function of the family, as argued by functionalists, is that it plays an important role in socialization. So, it is forming your base. So, whatever personality you kind of develop will be reflected in whichever other sector you go. So, inside the factory, the family, the content of the socialization process is the cultural tradition of the larger society. Basically, the functionalists have argued that the family is the mechanism to transfer the norms and values of a particular culture to the next generation, and that is why the significance of family in the society increases. Families are not only kind of instrumental agent and mechanism of socialization, but they are also economic unit with respect to production and allocation. Though the production has moved from family to factories and industry, but yet it is an economic because it is within the family that the resources are allocated, and depending on the amount or the resources that the child gets in the process of growing up will make him or her a part of the production process. The third significance of family is that it still continues to be an institution for exercising social control. So, with reference to social control, each person's total range of behavior and how his or her time and energy burden is more easily visible to family members than to outsiders. So, your basic control of your personality, of your behavior begins from the family. The family can evaluate how the individual is allocating his or her time and money, and how well he or she is carrying out the various duties. So, how you are going to kind of restrict yourself to do, say, play or do study is again determined by the control that you have within the family. Consequently, the family acts adjust to work harder and play less, or go to church or do religious activity and study more. So, they are doing this balancing of the work that is required at different points of time, at different age, across gender. So, the significance of family is then obvious. See, on all these ways, the family is an instrument or agent of the larger society. If it fails to perform adequately, the goals of the larger society may not be effectively achieved. So, some of the contribution of the family to the larger society, and this is from a functionalist perspective, the functionalist perspective in sociology, they were trying to find out the positive functions that the institution of family performs, and these functions are reproduction of the young, physical maintenance of family member, and social placement of child, socialization and social control. Theoretically, the various tasks of the family are all separate from one another, but in fact are not separate. Almost all known family systems have. So, basically if you kind of look into this work as socialization, social placement or social control, they are kind of at one level they are separate, but at the other level they are kind of connected to each other. So, when we kind of understand the theoretical significance of the family, the next we kind of understand the definition of the family, and is it a matter of more or less. The matter of more means we look at two levels. Is it in terms of the members, are the members more or less, and the second is at the level of the functions being performed. Are the functions increasing with industrialization and modernity, or are the functions of the family getting reduced? And we find a number, thousands of publications have presented research findings on the family. One might suppose that there must be agreement on what this social unit is. In fact, sociologists and anthropologists have argued for decades about how to define it. If you kind of make a Google entry of the family, you will get thousands of pages giving you definition of the family by a number of scholars, psychologists, sociologists and other discipline, and therefore we see that there is a variance in terms of how the family is being defined. If we use a concrete definition and assert that a family is a social unit made up of father, mother and children, if this basic definition is used, Gooday is arguing that only 35% of all US households can be classed as a family. So, we see that this definition is capturing only a small percentage of the total population. Much of the research on the family would have to exclude a majority of residential unit. In addition, in some society, one wife may be married to several husbands or one husband to several wives. So, if we look into the definition of one man, one wife, it is not capturing the entire or that is not the only definition. There could be family which are outside this definition. So, that definition would exclude such units. In a few societies, there have been families in which the husband was a woman, and in some certain husbands were not expected to live with their wife. So, even in terms of the partner, whether it is from the same sex or in terms of the residential unit, it is not the same uniform pattern in all cultures. In the United States, millions of household contains at least one child but only one parent. So, the 1970s, 80s onward, there is an increase in single parenting, and the single parenting has come in because of technology, because of the change in the understanding of the functions of family. So, the conventional definition is not enough to capture the nuances or the forms or variant forms in which family exists. In few communities, every adult male is married to all other adult female. So, they are group marriages where it's kind of more symbolic than actually formal living together of the partners. There are many kinds of social units that seems to be like a family, but do not fit almost any concrete definition that we might formulate. And why this one definition cannot fit is because these definitions have arrived based on the study of the specific culture. So, you cannot generalize and apply the definition universally to all society. But in ordinary language also, we see that there are a number of ways in which we refer to family. People are most likely to agree that a social unit made up of father, mother, child and children is a genuine family. As a result, there are different conceptions of family in everyday uses, and some of the conceptions are, and here from a sociological perspective, these are different concepts which needs to be kind of separated from each other. The family, the household is kind of different, it's not the same. Commonsensically, we've kind of use it as synonymous, but they are different. So, multiple definition of family. Number one, a household with only a single person in it as a family. So, it's a large household where you have only one person living in it. Then you have a household is a family if it comprises of a widow and her several children. So, this could be a different terms in terms of composite family or extended family. The third is a husband-wife household is a family if they have children, even if the children are now living somewhere else. So, you have a conjugal unit in which you also have the reproductive part, and therefore, it would be defined as a father, mother and the children. However, many would not be willing to class a childless couple as a family, especially if that couple planned never to have children. Very few people would be willing to accept a homosexual couple as a family. Now, what lessons do we learn from these multiple variant uses of family? So, first is that family is not a single thing to be captured by a neat verbal formula. Second, many social units can be thought of as more or less families, as they are more or less similar to the traditional type of family. Third, much of this graded similarity can be traced to the different kinds of role relations to be found that traditional unit had. So, there is a lot of persistence of the features that has carried forward. Doubtless, the following list is not comprehensive. There is a huge list of the way in which we can learn from the commonsensical uses of the term family, but it includes most of those relationships. And so, if we say that there are a number of theoretical understanding of family, there is no one definition. We are saying that there are many commonsensical understanding of family. Then what is a family? And here Goode is pointing at a number of features that will help us to understand whether the social unit is a family or not. Number one, at least two adult persons of opposite sex reside together. Number two, they engage in some kind of division of labor, that is, they do not both perform exactly the same task. So, here if we kind of say a general agreement is that there is a domestic versus the productive divide. The women in the household who do the domestic work versus men doing the productive. So, there is a division of labor. The third, They engage in many types of economic and social exchange, that is, they do things for one another. Number 4, they say many things in common such as food, residence, both goods and social activities. The adults have parental relationship with their children as their children have filial relations with them while also assuming some obligations for protections, cooperation and nurturance. 6. They are sibling relations among the children themselves with once more a range of obligation to share, protect and help one another. When all these conditions exist, few people would deny that the unit is a family. So, a number of combinations and permutations have to be brought in together to define a social unit as a family. As we consider household in which more are missing, a large number of people would express some doubt as to whether it really is a family. So, out of the 6 points that we have mentioned, if 2 or 3 are absent from the social unit, then it would be difficult to define that unit as a family. If 2 adults live together but do nothing for each other, few people would agree that it is a family. So, it has to be an economic unit, it has to be a reproductive unit, it has to be sharing, it has to have a responsibility which is shared, labor which is divided among each other for that unit to be termed as a family. Next, Goode is talking about the advantage of the familistic package. Familistic package is that why do we need families in society which would become more significant as a social unit. So, the most fundamental set of advantage is found in the division of labor and the resulting possibility of social exchange between husband and wife or members of a homosexual unit as well as between children and parent. This includes not only economic goods but help, nurturing, protection and affection. It is often forgotten that the modern domestic household is very much an economic unit. So, the argument is that with modernization, the market, the factory coming in, the economic function of the family has been lost, and Goode is arguing that this is a wrong assumption. Modern family still continues to play the economic, continues to be an economic unit. People are actually producing goods and services for one another. They are buying objects in one's place and transporting them to the household. So, these economic activities are taking place. So, you are also kind of transporting them, acquiring them, saving, investment. So, the economic activities are taking place in the family. Another example that the author is talking about in terms of looking at the family as economic unit is that they are transforming foods into meals. They are engaged in cleaning, repairing, transporting, counseling, a wide array of services that have to be paid for in money if some members of the family did not do them. So, basically, even in gender we say that the women are doing a lot of domestic work like cleaning, feeding the child and a number of other work which are all available for to be outsourced from the market from the, so you can send the child for the tuition rather than the mother teaching the child, and if it is being done within the domestic unit of the family it is kind of not paid. But the same domestic work, if it gets outsourced to the market, it has to be compensated by the monetary value. So, we cannot kind of say that family is no longer a economic unit. Families of all type also enjoy some small economies of scale by working together as a unit rather than doing work individually. So, when the work group is being done, the work is done efficiently and at a cheaper cost than doing it separately. The second feature of the modern family that he is talking about in terms of the advantage of the family as a social unit is continuity. All historic forms of family, including communal group marriages, are also attractive because they offer continuity. Whatever the member produce together, they expect to be able to enjoy together later. So, continuity has several implications. One is that members do not have to bear the cost of continually searching for new partners or for new members who might be better at various family tasks. There is a continuity of certain members who continue to be a part of the family. The relationship is kind of old and you don't have to build on new relations. So, members enjoy a much longer line of social credit than making exchanges with people outside the family. Next, he talks about the advantage of familistic mode of living. That is, if we have become kind of advanced and there is impersonal, informal relationship growing, then despite that, why is the familistic mode of living advantageous? And Goodey says that it exists, for example, a very short line of communication. Everyone is close and by, and members need not communicate through intermediaries. So, when you are staying together in one residential unit, you have developed a relationship. You can kind of not necessarily make long letters or long email to explain your point of view. Sometime by looking into your behavior, by looking into the way you are walking, talking, members in the family realize that there is some problem or you are kind of in a different state of mind. So, the communication is limited. You do not need an intermediary or a middle person to communicate between two members of the family. They can respond quickly in case of need. A short line of communication makes cooperation much easier. Second, everyone has many idiosyncratic needs and wishes, but in a family these are adjusted and compromised, unlike with outsider. So, the Goodey is basically saying that if you have a need which is beyond the regular routinized task and go to an outsider, maybe the need is not fulfilled. But if it is a family, the family members ensures that the need of every member is kind of either adjusted or some compromise is made to ensure that the needs are fulfilled. Next, domestic tasks typically do not require high expertise, such as consequences. Most members of the family can learn to do them eventually. So, you do not require a formal training or a skill. Everybody can, through kind of hearing, listening, observing, learn the task of the family, and therefore, anybody can be of help at any time. Because members of the family do learn, members derive many benefits from one another without having to go outside the family unit. Is the task within a family setting are likely to be tasks at which insiders are at least as good as outsider and typically better. The next argument by William J. Goodey is to arrive at a sociological approach to family research. The unusual trait that the family exhibit as a type of social subsystem require that some attention be paid to the analytical approach to be used in studying it. First, neither ideal nor reality can be excluded from our attention. It would be, for example, be naive to suppose that because some 40% of all US couples now marry will eventually divorce, they do not cherish the idea of remaining married to one person. A sociologist ascertains the ideals of family system partly because they are a rough guide to behavior. The sociology of the family cannot confine itself only to contemporary urban American life. So, we have to kind of look into many non-Western society, how the family system works in non-Western society, and not arrive at a generalization by just studying the American life. Conclusion of any substantial validity or scope must include data from other society, whether these are past or present, industrial or non-industrial, Asian or European. Data from the historical past, such as Periclean Athens or Imperial Rome, are not often used because no sociological adequate account of the family system has yet been written. So, most of the time if we pick a book on understanding the family, the structure of the family, transformation taking place, we see the study has been done in America or in the other Western countries. Non-Western countries research have not been done. So, however, in the last 2 decades, the appearance of many studies about family system in various European cities of the last 5 century has kind of started. The study of custom and belief from the past yields a better understanding of the possible range of social behavior. Thereby, we are led to deny or at least to qualify finding that might be correct if limited only to modern American life, such as the rise in divorce rate over several decades. So, if we kind of look into the full analysis of any concrete object is impossible, everything can be analyzed from many vantage points, each of them yielding somewhat different but still limited picture. Everything is infinitely complex. Its science limits its perspective to the range of processes that it considers important. So, if we have a good understanding of number of society in which family exists, there is no one universal definition, and this is how we have a sociological approach with cultural specificity. The reference for this lecture is Goody William, published in 2009, The Theoretical Importance of Family, in Arlen S. Skolnick and Jerome S. Skolnick's edited book Family in Transition, published by Pearson. With this, I come to an end of this lecture. Thank you.